Hey there, guys. So we are back today starting the basics. Redstone tutorials. Now, I do understand that you're probably going to know things like the components that we're going to talk about, such as levers, lamps, dust, and so forth. So I'm not going to go over the dust, but I am going to go over the gates, the logics, and how they work quickly and see how it goes. So, starting out, we got ourselves a NOT gate. Now, the essence of the NOT gate is that it is not the signal you put in. So right now, as seen by this lamp, I'm actually powering this block, but the lamp, the output, not being powered. So, as we see with that, it is the reverse of what we put in. It is as simple as a torch on the back. Boom, and you're done. Okay? We can then move on to an OR gate, which is kind of like an either or, right? So you can have either of them on. Now, then we get also a not OR gate. Right? So it's either or, but either or, and it's not the input we put in. Right? See? Powering on, the light powers off. So then we have here the AND gate. This only works if both are off. Alright? So that's important. So, in addition to the not or, the and the or, we have the XOR gate. Now this is a really nifty one, where if you have both signals off, the input is off. However, if you turn on an input, it comes on. You turn on the other input, and it goes off. So right now the torches here are on, which lets you know that this block is not powered. However, the output is off. And if you go ahead and on, we go for a nice one. This works because back in here, we have it set up so that these redstone torches will power this dot. However, if I unpower this, then it actually does light up the torch on the other side of this particular block. See, because we've got 1 and 2 torches out on this half of the circuit. And then if both of them happen to be out, well then this center torch comes on because the OR gate that we had before is no longer on. So as a result of this, we get the output being only on should we have an input offset from the opposite input. Okay? And then we have kind of the opposite of that being available to us, where right now our output is on, and if we have an offset, meaning one is on, one is off, well then the output is then not available. Having them both be equal, in this case both off, or both on, allows the output to be on. Okay? And then we can go ahead and bring this into the next step, which is the RS NOR latch. Now with this one, we can go ahead and hit this input button right here, and we will switch to having our input be on. Now, no matter how many times we press this button, we will not change our input being on. It is on. However, if we go ahead and press this button, well then this input comes on. And that allows us to be able to have, again, this have no impact, but this button now does indeed have an impact and switches back to my input. Now, we have a similar situation going on over here, all right, but this one is the RS AND latch. So with this one, we can go ahead and have it be with our input off. And then if I want my input to be on over here, right, my input does not work. But this input does flip things around, all right, making my input come on. Again, this is kind of the reverse of that situation, where if I want mine to be off, I have to press mine, instead of if I want mine on, I press mine. All right, so it's the kind of the exact opposite, but working under a very similar principle here. In this case, powering this block turns this torch off. So if I power this block either via my or the torch, then it goes ahead and does it. So in this case, this block is not powered, but if I do power it, the torch falls off, and thus this torch became powered, continuing the power on that block. The opposite being in effect here. This torch not being on means this block isn't powered. Torch comes over here to power this, which having this block be powered means button does nothing. But if I do power this, this is now unpowered and allows the power to come in here, thus locking this particular situation. So moving on, we can go ahead and extend pulses using comparators booted next to each other. Boot them next to each other forever, and you get longer and longer of a pulse. In addition, with comparators, we got clocks, and with these clocks, you see pulse, pulse, pulse. Now the clocks you can do some pretty fancy things with, but in addition to this clock, we also have this here clock, which allows us to have pretty much a constant signal, whereas this one was a pulsed signal. Bum, 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 and then off. This one, you can't really use the button quite as well. It's more of a turn offy situation as a pulse than an on-y situation as a pulse. So just a lag friendly. There we go. Now, moving on here, we do have a rising edge monostable circuit, which means that this will only fire on initially at the pulse and then will not fire on again. We get a quick little pulse right at the beginning, and then no matter what is powering on here, this is powered off. We can snag a little pulse out of that, but it does not stay long. And then falling edge monostable circuit is the exact opposite. I power this on, and that does not give me any input. However, as it's turning off, boom, there we go. It goes good. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and swing on over here. And here we are with our T flip-flop. And the T flip-flop, it is an on-off situation. It works pretty effectively pretty much all the time. I haven't had an issue with this one. That being said, I have had several issues with T flip-flops. So as we come down here, we have a few different poor T flip-flop designs. Now this one used to work, in which you could alter whether or not it was powered via whether or not the top piston grabbed the cauldron. And like I said, it used to work just fine, but now it kind of is hit or miss as to whether or not the cauldron gets taken or not. So we can think this one may come back if they get stuff back in order, but it is certainly not a guaranteed on-off every time. Similarly, we had this situation where we would be able to power a block, and then we would be able to swap between them with two pistons. But again, this is also seeming to be a somewhat broken situation. It does work much of the time, but then you'll get one where it just doesn't fire it right, and it stays on that side, you know, so it's not a perfect one, but it is a system that does somewhat work. In addition, we've got this one, which kind of seems to be like a works 2 out of 3 times. If you see here, we click it and it just stayed on that one. Click it and it switches. Click it and it switches. Click it and it stayed on that one. Click it and it switches. It's like, this one does seem to work. Now, as a final aside, we have a burnout clock, which is one of my favorites, because if we go ahead and clear our hotbar here and we click on this, we can actually set it up to grab out a full, where'd it go? I'm missing one? Oh no, there it is, a full stack of ender pearls on each dispense, so it kind of makes for a nifty system. You can set this up to stack more in order to be able to grab out more than just 16, but it is a nifty little system to be able to fire out 8 pulses, the initial one, and then 7 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you get an even amount. If you guys do enjoy, please give me a subscribe. I'm desperate for it, and I hope you guys have a great day. And if you need any of this stuff, then you go ahead and you reach out, and we can make sure that we get more information. And have a good one.